Welcome back, guys. It is championship racing once again here at SARCO. We're in the Formula C for round number 3 of the Formula C championship, which is proudly supported by Thrustmaster. The Snetterton 300 is the venue for our 2 races of 12 laps each. It is overcast and each race is determined by a 1-lap flyer. Sit back and enjoy the highlights of both races 1 and 2. So we take a look at the starting lineup here for a race number 1. In 12th place we have Ronaldo for Shake and Bake. He's alongside the 11th place Dylan for the Black Mambas. Both drivers are not getting a time in for that qualifier. In the 5th row we have 10th places Ross. He's for Project Cat Racing and he's alongside Ash in 9th place for the Cape Town boys. Moving forward to row number 4. In 8th place we have Colin for Dakel Racing and he's alongside the 7th place Jacques from TTR. To row number 3, in 6th place is Dirkie from Tosco. Dirkie lines up next to Jakes for the Black Mambas, Jakes in 5th place. Row number 2, in 4th place is Gerard for Tosco 2 and he's alongside Duppy for TTR, Duppy starting off in 3rd place. To the front of the grid in 2nd place is Charles for Tosca 1 and he's alongside Bruno the pole sitter for Silverback Racing. As we wait for the green lights here to go race number 1. Off we go. Dirkie's had a great start there coming from 6th place. Looks like he'll try and squeeze in the middle. There's Bruno, he's managed to get himself clear coming into Riches. A little contact between Dirkie and Gerard and Jake seems to have been pushed wide. It all seems to be okay now coming into Montreal. So Bruno is leading with Charles in 2nd place, Duppy is 3rd, Gerard in 4th place with Jakes here. This Gerard's going very wide there coming through Palmer. So unfortunately he will lose that place to Jakes. Jakes now moves himself up into 4th place. So we pick up this action on board with Jacques from TTR. We see as Dirkie prepares to go into Riches, he turns in a little bit too soon. That unfortunately eclipses Gerard. That brings Dirkie straight into the line of Jacques. Dirkie loses the rear. There's Ash who collects him, and right behind Ash we have Colin, who then sends Ash up and over while Dirkie's doing his little tumble. Dylan takes some evasive driving and goes around the outside, and poor Ronaldo, he gets himself stuck right up against Dirkie. So back to the front we have Bruno leads with Charles currently in 2nd place as the guys go through Hamilton's, hard on the brakes here on 2 Oggies. A sideways action there for the race leader. This a very tricky turn number 7 Williams. Down the Bentley straight, then into a Brundle. Then this a very tricky turn number 9, Nelson. Everyone seems to be through there safely for now. So the 3rd place driver, Duppy from TTR. Jake's just starting to settle himself now, start closing that gap. But out in front, there's Bruno. He's now going through turn number 7. That's the Williams corner. A little dust there. I'm not sure whether Bruno might have run himself a little bit wide. Well, there's Gerard was in the background there. He went wide once again. Coming out of the exit of Williams. Down Bentley straight into this tricky turns 8 and 9. Into a Brundle, then into this very sharp 90-degree corner at Nelson. But further down the field, we're watching Colin, Dylan and Ronaldo. So going into Augustino, Dylan makes a little move on the inside that allows him to move up into 7th place. Little tag from Ronaldo onto the back of Colin. You see Ronaldo just slows down, allows Colin to go through and take his place back on the track in 8th. We jump on board with the second place driver, Scholl, with him now chasing Bruno. We'll just stay in this view and go for a little tour around this track. Exiting out of the last corner, Murray's turn number 12, back onto the Senna straight. Crossing the line to begin a lap number 2. Into Rich's little gear down flat out, mind the tyres that are in the road from that absolute havoc in the first lap. Hard on the braking zone into Montreal, turn number 2. Then now into this very tricky left-hander in Palmer's that just see it goes over a little crest, but the corner seems to just fade away from you. Then down into second gear, Agostini. This little right-hander, left-hander little kink is just about flat out. Then Oggies, which then tightens up on you and then opens out once again. Then through turn number 7, Williams. Sees Bruno getting that a little bit sideways as he got back onto that power. Down Bentley straight. Braking points at the bridge, going left into Brundle. Tighten up, back on the brakes, down into second gear through Nelson. Flat out here through a bomb hole. Very tricky because there's a little surprise on the outside there. Through turn 11, this is Coram. Very long right-hander, back on the brakes into Murray. Then back across the start-finish line to begin a lap number 3. So a few places behind the leaders, we have this battle here for 3rd and 4th place. That is Duppy from the TTR currently leading ahead of Jakes. Some more wheels lying on the side of the track. Jakes is really trying to put a lot of pressure here on Duppy to try and find a way around him. Through Palmer. Jakes having a look on the inside going to Agostini, but he definitely realized that he might not have been able to make that stick, so he does let the opportunity go. And Duppy now starting to just pull away from him. We'll definitely keep our eye on what's happening in this battle. So back to the front, coming through Brundle and now exiting Nelson. The race leader Bruno will go through a bomb hole and we bring up the current position. So Bruno leads with Scholl right behind him, less than a second. Duppy is in the 3rd place with Jakes a few tenths behind him. Carrot is in 5th. With Ross in 6th, Dylan is in 7th place with Ronaldo 8th, Colin in 9th place. Jacques is down in 10th and Ash and Durkee are both having to retire. Starting his 4th lap is Ross for Project Cat Racing. He's currently having quite a lonely race, sitting in 6th place. He's currently going off the track, manages to keep it together. He's currently about 10 seconds behind Gerard, who's currently in 5th place, and 5 seconds ahead of Dylan. We saw the glimpse of the green car in the background. So Ross being one of the contacts in that first corner incident. So unfortunately Ross is nursing some damage. Oh, once again Ross really starting to battle with that car. So the car just oversteered for him as he was in Agostini. Oversteer once again there for Ross. Back to the leaders, and Bruno still leads versus Scholl. But Scholl is relentlessly not allowing Bruno to get away. In the background there we saw the battle for 3rd and 4th place. That too is still very much happening. into a Montreal. Looked like Charles went a little bit deep there on those brakes, which has allowed Bruno just to open that gap ever so slightly. Just want to recap on the current positions. So Bruno leads with Charles in second. You can see less than a second. Then 6 seconds further down is Dupi in third place with Jakes in fourth. Carrot is in fifth place with Ross in sixth, Dylan 7, Ronaldo in eighth place, Jacques is in ninth with Colin 10th, and Ash and Dirkie in the pits. Do want to jump back here to this battle for third and fourth, and we can see Dupi has started to just open a little gap there just to allow him to breathe a little more easily. Coming through a Brundle, there's a Dirkie now. So coming through, exiting out of a Brundle into Nelson, a Dupi, he still leads Jakes. These guys have been fighting it out for the last 5 laps. Jakes has had a few looks, but he just hasn't been able to get his car in front of a Dupi. You see him trying to close that gap, coming out through Coram. We'll have a look on the inside here into Murray's. No, not close enough to make an attack. They will now cross the line to begin a lap at number 6. So back to the race leader Bruno. We change our camera and we have a chase as he's coming into turn number 4. Hard on the brakes there. Charles, he goes a little bit wide, a little bit sideways. Charles isn't able to take advantage of that opportunity. Now through Hamilton. Bruno keeping it right on the limit there on that runoff. Well, Charles very close getting that power back on. They'll now come through turn number 7. A little further down the track, this is the third place Dupi. He still has Jakes behind him, but Dupi has now managed to pull a 1 second gap. So he's not having all that pressure that he was receiving a little bit earlier on in this race. In shot, the 5th place driver Gerard for Tosco 2. He's had a very uneventful race so far. He has been in this position from the start. He did get a little tag on the rear from Dirkie going into turn number 1. But he seems to have settled into this position and he's really keeping it tidy. And currently circulating in a 10th position, this is Colin. Colin was in the center of the flying Dirkie and the flying Ash after the contact into that corner. Colin, I'm sure he's just happy that he's been able to get his car going and he's able to circulate around this track. Lap number 8 and Jakes are starting to close that gap once again on Dupi. We'll just keep it in this shot and we'll bring up the positions. So Bruno, he still leads with Charles in 2nd place, 1.2 seconds behind him. Dupi in 3rd, Jakes is 4th, Gerard is 5th, Ross is in 6th place, Dylan in 7th, Ronaldo in 8th, Jacques in 9th, and Colin in 10th position. So we'll stay with this battle as the guys go through turn number 1, Riches. Then into the hairpin of Montreal. Jakes really has been trying hard to find a way around Dupi in this race, but he just has not been able to find the kink in Dupi's defense. Dupi really driving the skin off this car at the moment. In shot, the second of the Black Mamba drivers. This is Dylan. He's currently circulating in 7th place and goes very wide coming out of Montreal. After avoiding the incident in turn 1, he did land up putting himself through a sign, so is nursing a damaged car. He did have some front wing and some front left suspension damage. But he's just keeping it on the track and trying to get it home. So back to the front, and we're now on a lap number 10. Scholl has closed down that 1.2 second gap to a mere 0.3. That was very close. Bruno going a little bit wide. Scholl tightening his line going into Montreal. Now through Palmer, you can see how this corner dips as you go down it, and it actually fades away from you, making it extremely tough to get that power on. Is that the car is constantly feels like it's understeering. There was a great exit there by Scholl. You can see how on the accelerator how Bruno wasn't able to open the gap. All little sideways there for Bruno here into Ogiswald. Scholl had honestly thought that Scholl would have touched Bruno there, but he managed to keep the distance between them. Now a sprint down the Bentley straight. Then into this tricky braking zone. Just in front, that is Ash, currently about to be lapped by these two drivers. Ash just moving out of the way, not interfering with this battle. Tarting up out of Coram down through Murray's. Great exit there for that's Scholl, now moving to the outside. Bruno just trying to squeeze him, but trying to get as far to the left as possible so he can have the faster line coming through turn number 1. Scholl goes to the outside. Bruno defends. Scholl is forced wide. A little bit of oversteer as Scholl got back on their power. Back down Palmer. Bruno very wide, but managing to keep it on the track. Up to turn number 4. Scholl too far away to have a look, but he's got a much better drive coming out of the corner. Bruno manages to keep that power on, and he just edges a little bit in front of Scholl. Scholl having to now once again fall in behind him. Approaching another driver who will be lapped. That's Colin in that car at number 18. Scholl getting a maximum downforce benefit of being behind Bruno and having that downforce lifted. Now going through a Brundle. Oh, there's a little contact there. Bruno has lost his momentum, unfortunately having gone off. I definitely want to go back and see what had actually happened there. So here both Bruno and Scholl come through Nelson. Bruno just goes a little bit wide, getting the car up onto the curb. The rear just oversteers. Scholl gets a great drive coming out, and as Bruno just straightens out, Scholl unfortunately it just tips that rear wheel, and that unfortunately sends Bruno off. So back to the battle for 3rd and 4th place. There's Jake still having a look on the inside, but too far to make an attack. Dupi's gone a little bit wide. Well, a little contact between Dupi and Jakes, running up the back of Dupi. Jakes now coming through Coram. They too now are starting to find the back of the back markers. Jakes tucks in behind Dupi as they cross the line to begin the last lap. That's Ash just moving out of the way. Just ahead, that's Bruno. So you can see how these two have now closed that gap after Bruno unfortunately having a little bit of contact between himself and Scholl. Jake's going very wide into Montreal. Down through Palmer, turn number 3. Jakes was really battling. He's been in this position for the last 11.5 laps, and he just has not been able to overtake Dupi. We'll have a look. No, he does not. He comes through August. Jakes tries to go wider to try and get an undercut. He tucks in right behind him. Coming out through Williams. Trying to get as much assistance from that slipstream. So on the previous lap there was contact between Jakes and Dupi. Jakes has a look on the inside, but he's too far away to actually make a safe pass. Right up behind each other. Jakes goes around the outside, but he's off onto the dirt. That's allowed Dupi to get that drive, have that traction out of that corner. That would have been the last opportunity that Jakes would have had for this lap. So across the line, Scholl, he will win. Bruno will come in second, Dupi third, Jakes fourth. Gerard will finish in 5th place, with Ross in 6th, Dylan in 7th, Jacques in 8th, Ronaldo 9th, and Colin in 10th position. And unfortunately, both Ash and Dirkie having to retire. So I hope you enjoyed that race number 1. It's now time to head over to race number 2 for this evening's event. Race number 2, and we look at the starting lineup. In 12th place is Ash for the Cape Town boys. He lines up next to Colin for Dakel Racing. We move to row number 5, and unfortunately we lose Ross due to a malfunction in the pits, and he is disqualified. 9th is Ronaldo for Shake and Bake. We move forward to row number 4, and Dylan for the Black Mambas is in 8th, and he lines up next to the 7th place driver Jacques for TTR. Move forward to row number 3, the TTR partner to Jacques, Dupi. He's in 6th place, and he lines up next to Bruno for Silverback Racing in 5th position. Moving on to row number 2. In 4th place is Gerard for Tosco 2. He's behind Jakes, who's currently in 3rd for the Black Mambas. Then moving to the front row, it is the Tosco 1 drivers. Dirkie, he's in 2nd place, and Scholl, he goes fastest for pole. As we wait for the green lights for this second race, it is green lights and off we go. I'm sure the drivers are hoping for a much better start than the first race as they prepare to come into turn number 1. That Dirkie's had a great start. He's moved up ahead into 1st place ahead of Scholl. There's Jakes coming from 3rd place. Bruno, he's up as well. That's Gerard there in 5th place. Dupi is in 6th. The two Tosco 2 drivers a little bit wide coming out of that Montreal corner. As we come down the hill, that is Dirkie leads with Jake seconds, then Scholl, Bruno. That is Gerard, then Dupi, then Jacques. Jakes is a little bit wide going into Agostoni. Single file through Hamilton. Jakes goes wide, Bruno goes wild, Scholl has a little bit of an oversteer. There's Ronaldo in the pink and blue numbers. He too goes wide coming through Hamilton. Around Williams. Dupi starting to put some pressure here on Gerard. Gerard just closing down that gap. Having to force Dupi to go on the inside. Well, Bruno's gone a little bit wide coming out of Nelson. That's allowed Gerard to get right up behind him. Jake starting to get a lot of pressure there from the 3rd place driver. Gerard's gone off. That's allowed Dupi to move ahead of him. Next in line is Jacques. Jacques too will go around Carrot. So Carrot unfortunately now dropping down. So back to the front, and Dirkie, he still leads this race with his teammate Charles in second. Jake's in third place. Bruno is fourth. That is Duppy in fifth with Jacques in sixth. Carrot is in seventh. Dylan in eighth place. Ronaldo in ninth. Ash is in 10th. Colin 11th, and Ross unfortunately in the pits. A lot more cars contesting up in the front of this pack at the moment compared to the last race. Just saw Bruno starting to put some pressure on the back of Jake's there. Jake's having a little bit of a slower exit. That is Jacques going very wide. Bruno now is starting to close that gap. Will he be able to tuck in behind him coming down the Bentley straight and make a move going into Brundle? Fortunately, Bruno just a little bit too far behind at the moment to have an attack coming into this section of corners. So we have Jakes, Duppy, Gerard, Jacques and Dirkie now all are fighting for the third place. Then in the background, that is Dylan. He's currently down in 8th place. So you can see on the 3 blue cars, this in shot is Gerard, car number 42 with the yellow trims. There's Jacques going very, very wide through turn number 1. That's allowed Dirkie to get up right behind him. So as I was saying, is the car with the yellow trim, that is the Tosco 2 driver, that's Gerard, where the red trim is the 2 TTR drivers. Great long shot seeing the cars exiting out of Agostini. Dirkie's gone wide again, just getting his wheels off that curb, and you'll see how that just pulls the car off the track. Just remembering that it wasn't 2 laps ago where Dirkie, he went off. That's Jacques, he's now gone off. Just waiting to see if Dylan had enough momentum to get around him, but we haven't seen Dylan in the shot just yet. There Dylan comes through now. He's now come through Brundle. So across the line, our race leader is So across the line goes the race leader Scholl to begin his 5th lap. He leads with Bruno in 2nd, Jakes is 3rd, being chased down by Duppy in 4th, Gerard in 5th, Dirkie in 6th, Jacques in 7th, Dylan in 8th. Then Colin, he's down in 9th place with Ronaldo in 10th and Ash in 11th place, and unfortunately Ross not starting this race. We're currently looking at 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th. Jack's unfortunately making a mistake 2 laps earlier, going off on Nelson, and that allowed the likes of Duppy and Gerard to close the gap between him. The very tricky last corner, turn number 12, the corner name being Murray's. You can see that long train of cars heading through that last corner down the main straight. These drivers now are settling down into their rhythm. Oh, little tag on the back of Duppy there by Gerard. That unfortunately just unsettled Duppy's car, and you saw that when he put that power on, fortunately the car just understeered there and he landed up going a little bit wide. So into the braking zone, Agostini. Duppy now just starting to pull a little gap ahead of Carrot. Here through Hamilton's, Carrot's gone wide, but he manages to hold it together and it does not stay off. So Jakes leads this battle going through Williams. Well, that's Duppy, he's gone off. That's allowed Carrot to get right up behind him. Carrot makes it an easy overtake in the end there. So unfortunately Duppy now down to 5th place. That's Carrot, he's now moved himself up into 4th. And in the background there, that's Durkee in 6th place, all over the rear of Duppy as they prepare to go into a bomb hole. Well, there's a little contact. Durkee touches the back of Duppy. Duppy's rear wing comes off. And there goes Jacques just avoiding his teammate, going around the outside. We can see the back of Duppy's car. There's Dylan going around the outside of both Jacques and Duppy. Dylan very late on the brakes there. But now Duppy will peel away to go into the pits to get that damage done. There's Durkee in the background. He too will come in to have damage repaired. So back to our leader. And Scholl is starting to pull a comfortable lead away from Bruno. We can just bring up the current standings. So Scholl leads with Bruno in 2nd, Jakes is in 3rd, Gerard is in 4th place with Dylan up to 5th. Jacques is in 6th place with Colin in 7th. Ronaldo is moved up to 8. Durkee has now dropped to 10 with Duppy now moving ahead of him, probably now leaving the pits. And down in 10th place. Ash is 11th and Ross unfortunately not starting this race. So coming through it's tricky Brundle and Nelson's corner. This is the battle for 5th and 6th place. That was Jacques just going in a little bit hot. So he's allowed the 5th place driver Dylan just to get a little bit further away. Dylan was sitting in 8th place, but due to the contact between Duppy and Durkee, that allowed him to leapfrog into 3 places. So he finds himself in 5th with Jacques behind him chasing very hard. On board with Jacques coming through the first corner. Riches, well, Jacques gone off, but he manages to hold the car going in the right direction. Dylan's a little bit deep into Montreal. That's allowed that mistake by Jacques to not be punished too much. And Dylan is trying very hard to get away from Jacques, but Jacques seems to be closing this gap down now. Oh, a little oversteer coming through this tricky Palmer. Dylan is wide again here in turn number 4. Little oversteer there for Jacques. So we'll keep it in this view while we have a quick look at what's happening in the positions. So Scholl, he still leads with Bruno in 2nd, Jakes is 3rd, Carrot is 4th, Dylan in 5th place being chased closely here by Jacques. Colin, he's in 7th with Ronaldo in 8th, Duppy in 9th place with Durkee in 10th, and Ash in 11th. As we see Jacques going off once again, he's really pushing hard to try and close this gap down between himself and Dylan. So we continue to watch this battle for 5th and 6th place. With in shot Jacques from TTR chasing down the Black Mamba driver Dylan. Jacques is off again, little kick up of the dust. Dylan is wide going into Oggies. Much better line there for Jacques than Dylan going out of turns number 7 down the Bentley straight. Jacques getting very close to that white line on the outside of the track. Jacques definitely starting to close the gap down between himself and Dylan. Great drive there by both these drivers. Safely through the last corner and across the start finish line. Lap number 10. in shot. Third place driver Jakes is looking comfortable at the moment. Just behind him we saw Gerard. He is currently in fourth place. Gerard too just getting into his rhythm. The moment trying to pull down the gap between himself and Jakes, but I think at this stage he just wants to get the car home, bank these points and get ready for round number 4 of this championship. So back to 5th and 6th place. Dylan coming into Murray's. Oh, little lockup, goes very wide, oversteers the car on the accelerator. That allows Jacques to get that drive out of the last corner. Dylan tucks up right behind him. We jump on board with Dylan as he chases Jacques going through Riches. Dylan just backing off a little bit too much there. Dylan is wide into Montreal, not taking the downforce into effect there that he did not have as much as he normally would, now being the chaser. Through Agostini, Dylan is wide again, Jacques too is wide. Well, Jacques gets a little bite off the curb there, but he manages to hold it. Here into Augie is a very tricky right-hander. Good line by both the drivers. Little oversteer by Dylan. Tap off, power back on. Dylan tucks behind Jacques, but Jacques moves out the way. Dylan just trying to close this gap. Will he be able to go around the outside here through Brundle? Safely through Nelson and through a bomb hole. So on board with our race leader Scholl as he comes out of Coram for the last time, exiting out of Murray's. He will cross the line for a double victory here. So Scholl wins with Bruno in second, Jakes will finish third with Gerard fourth. Jacques will fend off Dylan in fifth and Dylan will come home in sixth place. Colin will finish seventh with Duppy in eighth, Ronaldo in ninth, Durkee 10th and Ash in 11th position. So thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you did enjoy that. If you did, give our video a like, subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to hit the notification button so you can be notified of any of our live streams or the new highlight reels that have come out. This championship is proudly supported by Thrustmaster, and if you'd like to find out more about any of the products, check the description below for the link. You can also check out our Facebook page or our website, as well as download our Discord. We'll see you again in 2 weeks time for round number 4. Thanks for watching, yos.